So good morning, everybody. Welcome to our February community coffee hour. We are having kind of a really interesting coffee hour this morning because this is a part 2 to the coffee hour we had in January, which was about marketing, social media, and branding. So we put it up to a vote at the end of the January coffee hour, and one of the topics options was to do a part 2 with the same speakers and kind of bring them back for an even deeper dive. And that was what folks voted for. So that is what we are excited to bring to you today. So we're going to kind of do a deeper dive, and it's going to be a little bit more interactive this morning, and there's going to be some opportunities to ask your questions of Nick and Jacqueline. And I think I just saw Nick pop into the meeting this morning. So we would love to know who's with us. So feel free to, in the chat, pop your name, your pronouns, what mentoring program or organization that you're with this morning, what your role is, any other information that might be helpful for folks to kind of get to know you and who you are. For those of you who might not be familiar yet, we are Mentor Virginia. Our mission is to foster quality mentoring relationships that empower, elevate, and encourage young people. We do that through a variety of ways, including, events like this with our coffee hours every month, but we also provide training to mentors, mentees, and program staff. We have an AmeriCorps Vista program that allows Mentor Vista kind of volunteers to go out into different programs in the community and help build capacity for programs. We have a no-cost consulting program called Technical Assistance. And then we also have a national quality mentoring system program that enables programs to kind of look at their practices and how well they're aligning with the national best practice standards. We do have an amazing team with us, and I think some of those faces are here in the call today. Pam Johnson's our Youth Impact Coordinator. Cindy Montalvo is our AmeriCorps Vista Program Supervisor. Virginia Patterson's our Fearless Leader, is our Executive Director. Emma Rush is our Marketing Communications Coordinator. Timmy Spencer Helms is our Training and DEI Manager. And then I am Sarah, I'm the Director of Programs. And I'm not gonna be able to go through all of the next slide here for all the different folks, but we do have some great consultants who also support our training and consulting and National Quality Mentoring Service that we offer. So all of these folks are amazing. If you haven't had a chance to meet and interact with them yet, reach out and we'll make sure to get you connected because they are a wealth of knowledge and information about mentoring. So keep in mind, again, that today's interactive. So thinking about what brought you to this meeting, what are some of the questions? Because again, there's going to be opportunities throughout this to bring your own questions specific to your program or kind of what marketing and social media branding, all of those pieces are looking like in your program. So please do be thinking about questions that you might ask, and you can drop those in the chat or just hold on to them for kind of those Q&A moments that we have. And we're going to start this morning with a poll. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'm going to launch the opening poll. And if y'all were here last time, this is going to look familiar. It's the same poll that we opened with last time, but it's really helpful because it allows our speakers to kind of get a sense of who is in the room. So these might look familiar. And can I get a thumbs up that y'all are actually seeing the poll? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Give folks a minute or two to answer those. All right, we've got 66% have participated. 73%, just a couple more seconds here. All right, I think we're good here. So I'm going to share these results with you all. So does your organization have any paid team members, full or part-time, who are supporting your organization's marketing efforts? We had 85% said yes. That's pretty high. 2%, or not 2%, 2 out of the 13, 15% said no. How would you currently describe your organization's marketing, social media, and branding success? 54% were saying we're doing okay. Our efforts are sporadic. We had 23% saying we're doing pretty good, 15% saying we're doing great, No one said we're not doing too well. And then 8% said, who has time for that? And then lastly, what mediums is your organization using? It looks like the far and away most common is Facebook with 85%, Instagram at 77, LinkedIn at 62. Nobody's using podcasting. Nobody's using TikTok right now. Twitter and website blog, word of mouth are all in the 30%. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over now to Nick and to Jacqueline so they can introduce themselves. And this is a total takeover. They are taking over this morning. Mentor Virginia is stepping back and they're going to run this show today. So we're just as excited, hopefully, as you are to kind of see where the morning takes us. Jacqueline and Nick, welcome.
Oh,
Thank
you. We have all the power.
It's dangerous, right? Jacqueline Woodbridge, I'm the editorial communications and media relations manager for the city of Alexandria. I have nearly 10 years in political and governmental communications experience. Part of that has also been fundraising that I'm hoping to talk about a little bit today with you as well. Nick, you want to kick us off after intro?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Williams. I wear a lot of different hats, but the one I wear at VCU in particular is that I am the Assistant Director of Student Engagement at VCU School of Business, as well as the Director of our Business Mentoring Program, as well as a doctoral student and an adjunct professor. And then I'm an entrepreneur outside of all that I do at VCU. And I'm really here to share with you guys just the different pieces of marketing and branding that I've seen. Honestly, I'm self-taught, but I've learned a lot through mentorship, through different opportunities that I've tapped into. And really, that's the thing about marketing and branding. It's you learn trial by error. And really what we're going to dive into today is really start with the conversation. Jacqueline, I know that the things that we talked about before were really, how do we tell stories when your budget and your manpower are a little tight? How do you really operate with limited resources? What do people do?
Yeah, so I wanted to start our conversation today with a video that actually stars one of our own, David Aloha, who's here today, that the city did for our mentoring partnership as a part of Alexandria Mentoring Month, which was January last month. We were really excited to do this, but this is an example of how you can tell stories with a bigger budget, and then we'll talk about how to walk that back and still tell those same stories on perhaps more limited resources. Sarah, do I have screen sharing? Yes, I do.
Alexandria Mentoring Partnership is a citywide collaboration in conjunction with community mentoring programs. The partnership trains and equips volunteers serving as mentors for Alexandria families. The partnership brings together programs across Alexandria to collaborate on how best to serve the city families. Every child, teen, or young adult in Alexandria that benefit from a mentoring relationship should have the opportunity.
This is a great program that you can feel trusted towards them, and that they can help them with any issues that you have or had as well, and that they're here to support you as we, the girls, we are here to support each other as well.
Without her, I wouldn't be going this far. I wouldn't be the good student I am in National Junior Honor Society. She helped me become the successful person I am today with all these.
Together, through mentorship and volunteerism, we can expand the scope of our member programs and serve even more families. The partnership recruits and equips diverse and committed volunteers to positively impact lives of young Alexandrians.
I feel like mentoring programs provide a really important role in our community. They allow students to connect with other individuals in the community they may not have been able to interact and learn from experience and diversity in the community. They've not only changed the life of the students, but also myself. Really feel like I'm making it.
As a current mentor and a former mentee myself, I always enjoy hearing the stories of our mentor and mentees. And I truly understand firsthand the impact that a caring adult can have on a young person.
The ability to impact I use live in any way I can to be a trusted, caring adult in their lives, to be an active listener, to help see them through the challenges they may encounter, to see that progression from a fifth grader to a 10th grader has just been so rewarding.
What I most like about my mentor is how she's really nice, she's funny, she's super kind, and she is really there for me when I really need it. I feel like I'm part of her family. I hope that what I do shows her that I care about what she's doing and enthusiasm for everything that she's trying to become, not just now, but in years and years from now.
It really helps you. They teach you lessons, and then after those lessons, you get to do like fun stuff, and helps you be more open-minded to people. At the same time, it also helps you spread positivity.
We all can bring something to the table, and whether it be big or small, our unique experience can benefit the next generation in a multitude of ways. So join us in our mission and be a part of creating a strong future for our city.
All right, so that was our example of what you can do with a big budget. Oops, sorry, it kept playing. That's an example of how you can tell stories with a big budget. But as you can see, those stories really come down to some basic, human levels that you can capture on a smaller scale, on a smaller budget, and with limited people power and money power. So, Nick, do you want to start talking a little bit about strategies that you can use in order to use time wisely and use money wisely?
Yeah. When you think about really mentoring programs, period, it's relationship based. So, in order to really help tell these stories, you have to be able to, from the get-go, not only build a good relationship, but continue to nurture that along the way by staying in touch and encouraging people to share what they're actually experiencing. Honestly, the best time is to get those candid memories, those candid moments, those candid takeaways, those snippets. So oftentimes it's having maybe a designated person that even on their phone, I do this all the time with my student staff, of having one of them quite literally every time we have an event, hey, can you just like capture moments, asking people, hey, what are you experiencing right now? What is your favorite thing from this event right now? And just build a catalog. From there, and we do have sort of if you went to the last session, you saw maybe a little cheat sheet of resources from high cost to low cost, from advanced level to really basic, simple level. Use those resources, especially the really simple ones like CapCut. That's what I use all the time. And that's what I've been coaching my student staff on how to use, because it's really easy to teach and it's easy to pick up. And they just stitch together those different stories, add on a few captions just to make sure that we're ADA compliant, and share that on our social media pages. It doesn't have to be long. It could literally be a 15-second snippet. It can be a 5 to 10-second snippet, as long as it tells and it captures the authentic emotion and the authentic experience of the moment. That's a really, really simple way, of some strategies that could help.
Absolutely. And at the crux of it, it's those stories that are going to be most impactful and helping you both recruit volunteers, raise money, gain traction on social media. And so really using not only those tools, but also identifying the opportunities you have to tell those stories from the people that are helping you as well. These volunteers and your donors are doing and giving what they're doing because they believe in the core mission, and the core mission can be easily told through those stories. So there's, an aspect of, maybe our resources are small, but we do have stories to tell. So as we start thinking about, maybe you only have one volunteer who does have any video experience, what are the ways in which we can tell those stories in a very concise way that is both cognizant of time and budget? So those tools are part of it. I'll hand it off to Nick. You're about to say something.
But also I was actually really surprised in the poll that nobody's really using TikTok or podcasting, as those are two very, very great tools, especially social media wise, that can help you tell that story, help you share it with a different platform. Because you think about it, how many of you guys, if you can, maybe cameras on, raise your hand real quick, or even do the little raise the hand emoji. How many of you guys have been featured on a podcast before, or hopped on because a friend of yours happens to have their own podcast? Okay, I see one. I have 2. Okay. 3. Okay. How many of you guys have kids that want to have a TikTok, but you're not having an account on your own, but they say, can you do a TikTok with me? And it's fun, right? And it gets you out of your shell and allows people to sort of see who you are. These are great ways to maybe tap into. If you have mentors, because really like a lot of mentors, they're volunteering their time for a reason. When they're asked, and maybe, hey, can you tell your story about why you became a mentor? We're gonna do like we're gonna do a podcast. We don't really have all the things figured out. We're just gonna quite literally have a microphone and just have a conversation, a 15-20 minute conversation. And you can literally have your iPhone right there or a phone right there. You don't have to have the fancy cameras. Maybe set a goal for this year of saying, hey, we're going to do a podcast. We're going to interview 5 different mentors in our program. And of course, if you have mentees, depending on the age of the students, you're going to probably need to get parent permission as well if they're going to be on a podcast or TikTok and things like that. That's really with anything media related. But that's also something fun that they would love to do. Maybe even having the kids together and like just ask them a general question like, who's your favorite mentor? Or what is your favorite experience about the program? And just capture it in a group setting. You can really have fun with it, but lean into TikTok and podcasting. Those are really, really great platforms that allows you to really not only market the mentoring programs that you're running, but also it's almost like a book. Once it's written, it's out there. Can't really take it away unless literally the world says we don't want to see it on the shelves anymore. But once it's written, it's out there. And same thing when it comes to a podcast and even with what you create in regards to these authentic stories that help brand and tie to your brand of who you are as a program.
And within those, specific platforms, find opportunities for cross-posting. You can definitely post your podcast link on your social media, on Facebook, or if you have can take a photo and have that as the link preview and everything. That's a really great way to tell those stories in a different ecosystem. I think Nick, has like 4,000 podcasts. But it's a really relatively new medium, I think, in terms of this space. But they're also incredibly accessible. Listen, I'm sure I have only one podcast that I really, really love. Not a big podcast person, but it's a great way for when they're doing hobbies or driving around. There's always an opportunity for something that's just auditory. That's not necessarily something that a lot of folks are tapping into.
And you can also maybe think I know some of you guys raising hands, you've been on a podcast before, and some of you may have not been. But let me ask you guys this: how many of you guys have actually listened to a podcast? At least one. That should probably be everybody. You know who your favorite podcasters are. Especially, I'm sure many of you probably listen to ones that are tied to the things that you do. I know I listen to food ones. I listen to other podcasters that are in the Black creator space because I have a Black a podcast that talks about the Black experience. I have ones about entrepreneurship and business because of the hat that I wear. I have one that I listen to for educators. Maybe reaching out to those podcast owners and saying, hey, I have this mentoring program that I would love to talk about on your podcast because I see the alignment with what you guys do and also what we're trying to do. Are you guys currently looking for people to interview?
And as someone who has to fill out a content calendar, they're always looking for someone to interview. And there's so many opportunities out there. And I think even with that kind of cross promotion, you can also ask organizations who do have a bigger presence on Instagram or a bigger presence on Facebook or LinkedIn if they might do a post to help you recruit volunteers or to help you kind of be a surrogate for your fundraising or volunteer efforts and getting the word out there about your program. So I don't know where we are with time, Sarah. I lost my window. But we did kind of want to pivot into, sorry, Sarah.
Oh, no, you're totally fine. I was actually pulling up a resource at that exact moment. So let me pivot to my document. I think we had until about 9:25 for this piece. So we're still on track.
So we kind of wanted to pivot into, not only the platforms and resources you have when you have maybe a smaller team or a smaller budget, but how you can increase the impact of a small team and a small budget through recruitment of volunteers and fundraising. So Nick and I's idea was to split up into groups. As a fundraiser, we'll be talking about some of small and big dollar fundraising in my breakout group. I believe, Nick, you're talking about volunteer recruitment and retention. Oh, Sarah, that's cool. So that's kind of our next step. We can do a little bit of an intro, Nick, if you want to give a pitch for your room, and we'll battle it out.
Sure. Well, as you know, to do great work, we need great people. And to have great people, we have to do great things to support them. That's what we'll be talking about. The ups and the downs. I keep it real of like things that I work, things that I'm like still scratching my head as to figuring out what's going on. Because really, when you think about volunteers, it's capacity. And so we'll dive into that specific area a bit on how to find volunteers or student staff, how to maintain and retain them, but also how to support them in order to maximize and what really makes sense for your organization in the short term and long term.
Can I just say ditto, but with money? There are a lot of different strategies, and where your donors live and where your volunteers live could be different for each organization, whether that be big dollar donors or if you need to do smaller dollar donors. I have some tips and tricks for each of those, and would love to chat with y'all more in a smaller setting, do a quick intro and some questions that would relate more specifically to your organization.
Awesome. So I think, Emma, I think I'm going to go ahead and do the breakout rooms unless you were already, because I've got it up here. So we're going to create 2 breakout rooms, and I need to quickly name one. So there's going to be a room for Jacqueline, and then.
Thanks, Emma. So thank you for joining me today. I know fundraising can be a big challenge, especially when you don't necessarily have a background in it, or any people, professional fundraisers here. Nope. No. Well, good. I'm glad that hopefully we can learn together on something today. Just quickly, most of my fundraising has been in political fundraising, but I've also been a consultant for green energy organizations for fundraising, as well as Worthy Dog Rescue here in Arlington. So, my fundraising experience is a little bit broad. If you don't mind, either raise your hand or come on camera. Who gets most of their funding through like large scale donors or grants or things like that? Priscilla? No. We're mostly small dollars. Kind of, David. David, I know your story. It's fine. David's the one who connected me to this opportunity to share my experience with you. So thank you again, David, for this opportunity to help out, because y'all are doing some really, really great work, and if there's anything I can ever do to help y'all, thanks, David. I love it. So we're generally more small dollar fundraisers. We're looking more who uses social media to fundraise. Kind of some email programs. Tracy, Laura. Okay, so we're a little bit all over the board. Zaida, do you have a question? Oh, you were just, okay, I see. Great, thanks, Troy. So talking more about small dollar fundraising, since that kind of seems to be where the majority of y'all are living, it can be difficult, especially with limited people, to maintain that steady flow of funding. I know, with political fundraising as well as others, creating that sense of urgency as to why somebody needs to donate right now can be a challenge. So creating certain deadlines is a really big part of convincing people to give and understanding why it's important to give at that specific moment. The second big pillar of fundraising is to make a specific monetary ask. So if you're asking for how many $5 contributions can we get on this Friday. I think last time I talked about like a Flash Friday, so like a $5 Flash Friday, how many $5 contributions can we get in just this one day? So concentrating efforts with a specific ask around a certain deadline is a really, really good way to persuasively work in your fundraising efforts without it being like a long drawn out slog to try and get donors in all the time. Does anyone fundraise by phone? No. So one way that, especially to bring in larger donors, is to look at organizations or individuals who have given to similar programs in the past. See if you can get in touch with them. See if you can, pitch your stories in that way to bring in larger sources of funding. See if they might have networks who might be able to introduce you to more donors and other people that to build that fundraising community. Marty?
Yeah. So quick question. I know like
I'd like this to be a conversation. So
we're down here in Richmond, and we've got like NBC 12 that I know like they do these call-in things. Could we like reach out to them and see if they could like do a call-in to get donations for us, or how?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And maybe if multiple organizations are in Richmond or in a certain area, you can band together and split the profits at the end of the day. Whether that be like a certain drive for, like David, I know we had Alexandria Mentoring Month in January. Can be, I don't want to say like a PBS pledge drive because I always get tired of NPR and PBS pledge drives, but that kind of within, if you have limited manpower and hours, focusing it very specifically on a time period would be helpful. But I really like that idea of utilizing your local media, and even if it's a story on NBC 12, just call them and pitch it. I mean, they're doing great work. And again, they're always looking for content. They're always looking for things to write about that are different, particularly good news stories.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
I think that's a great idea. Who has done sort of like a drive or in-person event for fundraising? Marty, you're all over it.
It's not me. I'm the chairman of the board for Mentor Virginia, so I know our raising group has done some stuff like that. They've hit some breweries, they've hit some wineries and things like that. That's what they're trying to focus on. So yeah.
So the biggest thing for me with in-person like event fundraising, now that we're allowed to be around people again, it can be a challenge because you want to maintain your expenditures low while still raising the money. Find venues that are free. If one of your volunteers has maybe like a business office where you can use their conference room and talk to their coworkers and things like that, that might be a good way to not only recruit volunteers but also fundraise. See if somebody will bring in snacks for free, or donate the food and drink, or donate their space. And keeping that cost really, really low is incredibly important when you're fundraising. You don't want to spend, generally you don't want to spend $1, more than $1 to make $2. The lower you can get that number is really important. Somebody asking me something in the chat, I don't have it pulled up. Okay, never mind. Any questions relating to that?
Jacqueline, I did have a question regarding, so let's say we are interested in utilizing like a business to maybe host our fundraiser at, what sort of incentives can you talk about that can probably be offered to that business to maybe entice them a little more to either utilize their space or for them to kind of like provide some type of giveaway for our attendees? Do you have any advice on that?
So are you looking to entice the business to let them use the space, or are you enticing the people who work in that business to come to the event?
Probably more probably more on the business side. So either using their locations. I know Marty said brewery and wineries. I'm like, wow, that's a really great idea, something to kind of get people to want to come. And I think anytime you boost people up, they tend to give a little bit more than what they thought. That's Vegas rules.
I get it.
But yeah, how would you go about kind of enticing a business? Say, hey, we'd love to use your space, hopefully for free or little to no cost. Or could they provide at least a gift card or something? How would you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of securing a space, the fact that you're providing a community service in a very unique and different way, I don't think businesses are really going to say no to that, especially if you, like David, you have been a mentee and a mentor, and now you're running this incredible program. Somebody's going to hear your personal story and be like, yes, I want to support that. It's kind of an aspect of corporate conscience. And so, companies do want to give back and let their customers know that they are giving back. A little bit of a guilt trip, but so that's the way that I would go about it. How we started off on this morning's coffee hour was just telling your story and the stories of people that you're working with. But those stories are incredibly important in your fundraising and recruitment, not in addition to just raising awareness for your program.
Thanks.
In terms of getting people to come, I think choosing a cool place like a brewery or winery would be really neat, but see if you can utilize the breweries or wineries or venues often have like a subscriber list, or if they've ordered something online, they have that person's email address, maybe asking if they can utilize that to promote the event, because again, that's a corporate conscience thing. They want to show people that they're helping. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. So we have that kind of end, and if you have a cool venue or if you don't, it's just a business conference room, seeing if the volunteer that you have or the connection that you have, if they'd be able to invite their coworkers to hear their story about that mentorship program that they're a part of, and use that to fundraise just from their coworkers, or other members in the office park or something like that. So using other people's existing networks and leveraging, like there's in political fundraising, there's, and I believe it's a tool that other organizations can use as well. If you have like a list of targets, you can cross-reference it with your contacts in your phone, and you can just either call or text through your target list into the people that somebody already knows. So, and just going through your volunteers Rolodex is like, hey, do you have any friends who could give $10? And just fundraising that way as well, using existing networks. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Strategies, David.
Sorry, I did have another question.
No, I appreciate it.
Are you aware of any platforms we should be considering when fundraising, and particularly ones that may have a low percentage base that they take? I know some platforms I have heard take a larger amount. So are there any ones that you've worked with or came across that are, pretty good platforms that we should be thinking about when setting up our fundraising?
Like in terms of like intake?
Yeah. So as far as for that management component, so if we're looking at someone who has a smaller staff, and we want to utilize maybe not a GoFundMe, but something in the fundraising space like that can manage that intake of it, and then when we're ready to take out what we've earned or raised, are you aware of any of platforms that you can?
Political fundraising has specific platforms that we have to use and specific information that we have to intake. But and my nonprofit fundraising side, I just use Stripe because it was really easy. Their credit card fees were, I think, 1.9% when I used it. So it really wasn't taking a whole lot away. And I do think that they have special rates for not-for-profit organizations. So definitely take a look at Stripe. I can circle back and do some research for you on that, because I know there are others that are just not coming to my brain on a Wednesday morning right now. But finding one that has perhaps a lower barrier to entry in terms of those credit card fees and monthly fees that they charge is going to be the biggest component of that to maintain the most money that you do raise.
Awesome.
We have 51 seconds. Anybody else? Questions, comments? So we have hard ask, dollar amount specifically, create urgency around a specific event, and focus your efforts on ways that you can raise money without spending too much. Those are your 3 pillars. All right. Thanks, y'all. See you in the big room.
Thank you.
And everybody, hope everybody's had their coffee or their tea or just sunshine, just natural energy. I'm trying to get on your level. I'm working on it. Okay, so we're just going to really just dive right in. And I'll open it up with a question. What do you guys feel, because you're here we're trying to find volunteers or have student staff, what is the biggest barrier that you feel like is there when trying to figure out your staffing, especially with volunteers and student staff, etc.? And really, you can just take yourself off mic. No need to raise your hand.
I'd like to jump in. So I'm with Henrico Heroes mentoring program in Richmond. Henrico East End, West End. And I find that we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have our own blog, website as well. And during the summertime, that's when we do a lot of our tabling events, and we will set up, 2 different community events that we'll just jump in with and, hope that people come to us, or we'll go out and talk to different people. And I'm finding that coming back from COVID, a lot of our mentors, when they hear, they're going to go into the schools or, and be one-on-one with our children, they're a little hesitant. So that's our first barrier. The second barrier is honestly just getting the word out. I mean, last year was pretty decent. We were actually able to partner with one of our local news channels, things like that. So just simply getting the word out. There's a lot of people who just don't know that the resources are out there. And I find that radio stations are so hard to find point of contacts for, but those are the things that people are listening to and they're a part of. Like the podcast thing is beautiful. I didn't even think about that. So I think it's just finding the available resources so that we can, and having those point of contacts so that we can get the word out there. I think that's the only barrier that I see.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Raven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allison, raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm a TA provider with and I've been in the mentoring field for a long time. I'm sorry, did I interrupt you, Sean?
No.
Oh, okay. And there's a couple of strategies that over the years seem to have worked, and I was just wondering if Raven had experience with any of the other TA providers. But I really go back to the one reach one. If you have good mentors, people who have worked with you over the years, go back to them, even if they're former mentors, and say, gosh, we're always looking for good mentors. And do you know anybody? So always, and I tell my programs that recruiting is a 365 thing. You do it every single day. You've got in the back of your mind, the grocery clerk, would they be a good mentor? Anybody you run into, recruiting is a constant thing. And always having that in the front of your mind. And then looking at target-rich environments. Where am I going to find the kind of person who wants to come into my program? Where would they most likely be? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a benefit so that you're not spinning your wheels in places where you're not going to get people. But my big thing is go back to the mentors, even if they don't mentor for you anymore or have moved on or whatever, still use them as a resource, as one of your resources. Yes, the media is great, but nothing beats a one-to-one ask. And we found this time and time again over the years that, you know, I can go to Nick and say, you know, Nick, I'm in this program. I really love it. You know, I think you'd be a huge asset to the program. I'd like you to think about, you know, I mean, not making anybody feel bad or guilty or anything, but just saying, think about it. This is what we do. You know, we had a kid, you know, it was so fun. You know, the vibe is really positive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's hard to find the time, but, you know, but anyway, those are some of the things that over the years have been successful. But I do think this podcast and social media are all have their place for sure. But they're like, none of these is a one and done strategy.
Bingo.
Sense.
And what Allison is saying is definitely leading on those relationships, those quality relationships. And I completely agree, because a recommendation or a referral goes a long way. Like I've had mentors that are in our program right now that are colleagues of mine in my doctoral program. And I said, hey, I know you so well. I feel like you will make an incredible impact on some of these students that can learn from you. One of them is the VP of Assistant VP of Budget and Finance at BSU. Another one, she is currently the Assistant Director of Health Sciences at VCU. And another one, she is the Director of Equity in the Loudoun County area. And so I'm like, yo, y'all would be great. I would love to have y'all in the program, because I know my students will learn a lot from y'all. So that personal touch definitely goes a long way, and encouraging mentors to like constantly think about, I do this with my interns right now, of like, look, you're about to graduate. You are a phenomenal marketing intern. You've done a lot of great work. You picked up a lot of things. I'm looking for somebody that can do what you do and build on what you have. You have a better eyes. You know what you've been doing. You know what you've been working through. You know what you've had to do in order to get yourself from zero to where you are today. Keep your eyes and ears out for anybody that you see that has potential, and encourage them to apply to the internship. So again, it's the empower, is passing the baton and saying, hey, I can't do this by myself, but I know that you bring quality into this space, and quality attracts quality. My dad would always say, birds of a feather flock together. You either fly with buzzards or soar with eagles. When you're an eagle, you attract other eagles around you. So really speaking that out of like calling that out in a person, and helping, getting them to help you advocate and draw in the same quality into the program. So it really, really helps, especially when it comes to retention. Because what you'll notice about your program too is you'll start honing in on what makes a great mentee and what makes a great mentor. I'm gonna say it again. Thinking about what makes a great mentee and what makes a great mentor. The more clarity you have on those pieces, and it does take trial and error, the more it's going to help you refine and shape your brand and how you communicate to new and prospective individuals, how you train and equip them to do the work that you're calling and empowering them to do within the program and for the program. Because the one thing about volunteers, the one thing about even expanding your staff to help do the different things behind the scenes, the administrative things, the marketing elements, doing the TikTok and the podcast and all the social media managing, it comes from what standards you put into the space, the environment, the culture that the program operates within. When the culture is not clear, people can't function. People won't stay. They may stay for a night, but they'll be gone by the morning. Clarity always precedes strategy. And the more clear you are about who you are as an organization, what your expectations are of mentors, mentees, and volunteers, the more defined you can have each role and responsibility, if that makes sense. Let's see. What other questions? What other things have you guys seen that have been barriers?
So I actually worked for a larger organization before launching our mentoring program. And I feel like social media and marketing is always the big nut to crack. Like a lot of organizations struggle with that. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of finding people willing to do it. But then I'm leading a team of folks who, they have a good heart and they want to serve, but didn't really know the ins and outs of like how to take a good picture, how to capture a moment, mm-hmm. how to be consistent in that and sending that out on the channels. And it's only so much you can teach, and then whatever content they gave me, I would have to kind of make the best of it. And then even doing my own events, I had a friend who loves photography. So I thought, oh, she's going to kill it. And I got a lot of photos of people's backs and empty chairs, even though the room was full. So I find that, you know, I can find volunteers, but really, how do I infuse the vision and get someone who can be passionate about sharing our story and creating those moments, you know, to create a marketing, you know, a marketing plan?
So I would say keep the main thing the main thing. There's a lot you can do, because I know that was something that, like, my office, that was what we struggled with. When I first came on about a year ago, I said, this branding is so freaking confusing. For mentors, for mentees, even for our office. I don't even think people understand what we do. Like, they hear student engagement, but I don't think they really get what we actually do. And so we decided, I said, we need a marketing intern. And both my marketing interns, one was about to graduate, had some experience in at least design work, but not really marketing strategy, because all VCU teaches in the School of Business is marketing research. And so that's what they're learning. They're not really, we have a lot of creative marketers, but they're learning marketing research, which is important, but it's not the only aspect. Then I have one intern in particular who's currently my marketing intern, Jayla. She came in and interviewed, said, I had no design experience whatsoever. I don't really know much about marketing. But she was malleable. She was willing to be taught. And so what I had to think about doing is what you're already doing. You're doing well. Is I thought about, okay, I don't have the full capacity to teach her everything, but the time that I do have, I'm going to set aside and teach her the core things that I need her to know. That's going to help. Let me think about, you know, simple terms that will resonate with her and challenge her. So I said, one, when you do any kind of design work, all the elements need to be in alignment. Synchronicity. When they're not synchronized, it conflicts. And I showed her examples as she was doing designs in the first go. I said, second, you got to think about your target audience. Who are you trying to market to? Because that impacts how you design and where the words go and things like that. So I said, that's where we're going to stop. We're going to focus on those things. And so for the next month, every time you design something, check in with me. We'll spend 5 minutes and we'll break it down. And then I'll get your feedback, and then you'll go back and refine. And along the way, as we did that process, I saw her becoming more and more interdependent, to where now, after about 6 months, she comes back to me with a design. I'm like, oh, wow, I like where you put that. That's actually where I would have done that too. Oh, wow, I love that. No other feedback. So it's really thinking about, you know, creating a culture of somebody who's willing to grow, willing to be malleable, but giving them just enough to feed them what they need and empowering along the way. And if you don't have the capacity, pulling in friends that are willing to do it for free, to really help support that cause.
Well, Nick and Jacqueline, how did that go? What were the conversations like? If you want to, I don't know how you all want to kind of, you know, this is kind of Q&A time, but also it'd be great. I'm sure people from each room is curious about what the other room talked about.
We just got a whole lot of money. That's what happened. Everybody, look under your chairs. You'll find $100. Go treat yourself this weekend, okay? Happy early Valentine's Day.
So in our breakout room, we talked about kind of the 3 pillars of fundraising. A lot of the people in the room were kind of more focused on lower dollar fundraising, not necessarily big grants or big grants or big donations from individuals. And so we talked a lot about what platforms to use and how to really maximize that dollar. So we talked about making a hard ask, a specific dollar amount ask. So for example, if you have like a $5 Flash Friday, how many $5 donations can we get on this Friday? Component of that is creating urgency around a specific event. So especially as you might not have a whole lot of manpower to dedicate to fundraising, I'm keeping it within like January is mentoring month, or we're doing this specific Friday as like a drive. And then we talked about also, particularly for fundraising events, but for other endeavors as well, keeping your base cost incredibly low, strategies to find places to host that might be free or low cost, as well as ways to get people to those events with a specific draw. So David had the idea of if you're hosting at a winery, we can use the corporate conscience of that winery in order to leverage their space and their network in order to get that event going. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we talked about. Anyone from my room who want to chime in on anything I forgot? Got it. Okay.
Yeah, from our room, we started off with just talking about barriers. What are current barriers that are happening right now? And a lot of what we talked about at first was about just overall getting the word out. We have the volunteers, we have the people that are willing to be a part of the program, but how do you get them to commit to the process? And so we talked a bit about those kind of components of especially leaning into the relationships that you have. So the good mentors, the great mentors that you love and adore, using their connections, their credibility to help bring in the same quality into the program. Because birds of a feather flock together. Great always draws great. You look at LeBron James just won, destroyed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record in most points. I promise you, the people that are around LeBron are people that are playing at the same high level. So it's no wonder that he's achieved this level. It's because he's also around people that are also achieving levels. So birds of a feather flock together. And so lean on the mentors that are great, that you're like, they're great with the students. They literally have the level of empathy that we need. They are always on time. They're willing to do whatever. Let's pick their brain, or let's encourage them to invite other people that they know that would be great mentors, because we know that if they are doing these great things, they have a good intuition about what it takes to be a good mentor because they're doing it. Then we shifted the conversation a little bit to talk about when you do have the volunteers, what if they don't have the skill sets to do the things that you need? Like marketing, for example, how to do graphic design. And I talked about a couple of my marketing interns that I've had. One who was a senior, we decided to, when I first came into my job at VCU School of Business, I looked at our branding for our office. I'm like, oh, hold up. It's so inconsistent. The students don't really, and we're in this sort of new era of COVID. We haven't had students in person in 2 years. And so they don't really know who we are. So we got to take a step back, and we need to maybe add some roles in. So we decided to add in a marketing intern role. And one marketing intern was a senior who was a marketing major. And the second one was a junior who was also a marketing major. The senior, she had some experience. She already had a full-time job offer from CoStar. So she could do design work. I already knew that. That was easy. I could give her a project, she can go do it. The second one, however, she came in, I have no design experience whatsoever. Don't really know marketing strategy, because at VCU, they teach marketing research, not really the design work kind of creative thing that we actually needed. So this is where I knew what I could bring, my capacity. And I also had friends and connections that I leaned in to help coach and guide her along the way. To where within about 6 months, she's now very interdependent. And now I've empowered her to really help build out our marketing foundation. I call her my PR director, because she says she wants to do PR work. And she's like, okay, you're joking around. I'm like, no, I'm serious. I'm going to keep speaking that out about you, because you do great work. Now it's your turn to then take this next marketing intern, this marketing team. We have one student who does great with videography, and I've been coaching him along the way. Now I can pass him on to her. And then we have one student who has really some decent design work, but she can then coach and mentor and teach and empower this next student on what are the things that we need to do to create consistency in our branding, synchronicity. All elements need to really be in alignment. When they're not in alignment, it creates conflict. So we talked a bit about that, about how do you empower, how do you coach, how do you pull the best out of your team, how do you embed the skills that you need to make sure that the marketing stuff happens in a way that helps you to be able to go do the work that you're trying to do in leading the program.
So it sounds like we both really talked about leveraging our existing networks to leverage their networks.
Yeah.
And really expanding your web, both in terms of fundraising and recruitment and storytelling.
Yeah. And really just keep it simple. If you know your capacity is to do, you don't have the capacity to do all 10 things at once, focus on the one thing okay, this is what we do have the capacity to, and get really, really good at that. Once it's in a consistent flow to where you don't even have to think about it, think about it right now, everybody's breathing. When did that happen? When you were born, nobody told you, okay, you're going to take 5 breaths in, hold it, and then take 5 breaths out. It became second nature. Now, as an adult, you're walking, you're just breathing. It's just second nature. Once you get that one thing that, you know, we have the capacity to do right now, get that solid, get that like it's a breath of fresh air, then say, okay, what's our next thing that we can then add in as our capacity expands? Does that make sense?
Any questions before Nick and I pass it off to Sarah?
We definitely still have time for somebody, like an audience question or something, you know, if folks have something that's burning and they really wanted to bring that.
David.
Yes, thank you, Jacqueline. I did have a question. Nick, you brought up like a lot of like great things. And one of kind of what I was trying to get onto was the theme. How did how should a program kind of go about looking at what their theme should be when thinking of like a social media overhaul? So what are some strategies you can give us when we're really trying to hone in on that theme so we can make it consistent? And then when it comes to consistency, is there a rule of thumb on how active we should be on like these socials or how to play with the algorithm? So 2-part question. How do we capture our theme? And then how do we kind of go about continuing on with it?
So when I was in college, I was in a part of this organization called the Collegiate 100 Society, which is tied to the 100 Black Men of Central Virginia, designed to be a mentoring program for Black men, for professionals to connect with college students as well as Black kids in the inner city. And one thing that we would say is what they see is what they'll be. You have to start with your mission and your vision and your goals, and honestly revisit them every year, because that's where it starts to identify what theme would make the most sense for our branding for this year, for this season, and hone in on, okay, we have 3 core goals. This is who we are. This is what we're trying to accomplish. This is where we're heading. And that's where you'll be able to say, okay, if our goal is to create connectivity, more connectivity in the program, get people to talk more, to interact more, to pick each other's brains as they're learning the ups and downs of mentorship. Let's say this is the year of connectivity. And then as you go into the design work, maybe if you outsource somebody to do the design work or you're internal, thinking about, you know, what is our brand colors and what colors most signify that theme itself. Like if we say connectivity, what pieces, like when I hear connectivity, what things come to mind? I see lines that come to mind because it connects. I see maybe trains, I see planes, I see handshakes, I see conversations. So this is what inspires that creative ideation of what elements need to go into our branding and into our thematic work, so that when we do everything that we do, it lines up with that theme itself, if that makes sense. But it all goes back to that mission, vision, goals. I call it your house for your organization.
Thank you. That was great.
No problem.
Yeah, Nick, that's what I would say too. I mean, we just went through our strategic planning at Mentor Virginia, and you know, I guess we could start focusing maybe our marketing program on some of those goals and initiatives that we're going to try to get accomplished in the next 3 years. And I also love like the graphic idea. That's also great thoughts and great ideas as well. So thanks for that.
No problem. Like literally, I whenever I do strategic planning meetings or mission, vision, goals, I quite literally say, okay, everyone, we're going to meet. We're going to have a big room with like all the dry erase boards and everything like that. And like literally, when you think of one word, what comes into mind, and just get this like whole group thought to just get all these ideas, because that's how you solidify down into the final product, is to just really get people's brains rolling in that creative mode.
We have about 4 more minutes. Does somebody have a 4-minute question? Or Nick and Jacqueline, do you have a 4-minute nugget of wisdom?
Well, I'll throw that one out there. So I guess, is there opportunities to get any pro bono work from like VCU or Jacqueline from you or anything like that? I mean, it would be interesting. Some of these organizations might be able to help. The students might be able to help and stuff like that, right? You can mentor them and help us with pro bono work and things like that. Is that a possibility?
That's a good question.
I'm happy to volunteer my expertise for organizations that might need help. But David, really for the city, runs our mentoring partnership and helps uplift the programs within Alexandria that the city's working with. So I would pass that aspect on more to him, but I can put my phone number and personal phone and email address in the chat as well, and I'm happy to help out in any way I can.
Yeah, same here. This is the stuff I love doing is helping organizations refine, create clarity, and just be the best version of themselves. And sometimes it takes going back to your roots of who you are, because we can get so into the weeds of just doing every single day, every single hour of just doing the good work that we forget that the good work started with who we are. And sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. And that's honestly where the best work comes from, is when you quite literally take a step back and say, hold up. We're just doing all this busy work. Who are we really? And when we reflect on our actual actions, is it in alignment with who we said that we are? If you just randomly go out to people who know your organization, ask them, who are we? Who is the VCU Business Mentoring Program? And if it doesn't align with what you know of who you have been saying that you are, that tells you everything that, hey, we need to maybe slow down a bit and make sure that our verbiage is getting out there to create clarity. When there's no clarity, there is no strategy, there is no true, authentic movement. It's just wasted movement in so many different directions.
Thank you.
Anything final? Again, we have about 2 minutes before we'll start closing out the session. But if y'all feel like you've been inundated with wisdom, we can also close a little early. Awesome. So Jacqueline and Nick both popped their contact info in the chat. So we will also send that up in the follow-up email, but feel free to grab that. And then I also, a little bit earlier, it's gotten maybe a little buried now. We do have a TA consultant who works with Mentor Virginia named Tammy Mobley. If y'all have not met her yet, she actually has her own radio show, and I know she frequently features guests from the community. So that could be an outlet to tap into if you're looking for, one of those kind of opportunities that we were talking about at the beginning of this session. So I included that in there, and I can, if anybody's interested in that, I can also connect you directly to Tammy for that. But her podcast is on Spotify, which is really cool.
Yeah, one thing too that I'll mention too, since I asked about the pro bono question, reach out to large organizations. They may do pro bono work. So I know Capital One has a big pro bono initiative and things like that. They may be able to help in these spaces and things like that. So check with the large organizations in your area and see if they offer any type of pro bono work like this that they mentioned here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. And I just dropped a link to an eval in the chat if y'all would let us know how the session was. Again, this was kind of doing a part 2 deep dive after we've kind of already covered the topic in a previous session is new for us. So we would love to hear how you feel like this went today and what we might be able to do to improve the next time we do this. And stick around with us for just a couple minutes. We have a couple announcements, and then we're going to vote on the next coffee hour topic. So we want to get y'all's votes. And actually we'll be voting on April's coffee hour topic because we've had a really exciting kind of partnership come through, and we will be joined by our friends at the Governor's Prevention Partnership, which is basically, so we're the mentor affiliate for Virginia, and they are the mentor affiliate for the state of Connecticut. So they're going to be joining us along with some other panelists for a discussion about how we respond to crisis when it hits our communities and our families and our schools. So more info to come on that, but that will be the next coffee hour topic that we bring to you all. There's also a brand new data release from Mentor. So the last time that they did a study this big was probably 10 years ago. So this is kind of this decade's big release of information about what the attitudes are about mentoring, what are the trends in mentoring, how much mentoring is reaching our young people. And it also has comparisons across generations. You can see how the availability and effectiveness of mentoring has shifted over time. And there's some really good insights in there about Gen Z So our current young adults who are the most common folks in our mentoring programs right now. So there's really good information. So we're going to send out the link to the full report because that has been released. And there's also a webinar that Mentor is doing to go over some of the key highlights and kind of lessons to take away from this data. So we'll send out the link to that. It's on February 15th, later this month. We also have some other events going on this month. So we have some things on our calendar. We'll make sure we share the link to that for you all in the follow-up email. We always have our new mentor training every month, and there is a collaborative mentoring webinar this month around rural mentoring and how to expand and build capacity for mentoring in rural areas. So that is an exciting opportunity a little bit later this month. And then to kind of wrap us up here, just a reminder that we've got all these incredibly talented folks at our who have, that y'all can tap into really at any time. And I think several of you on the screen right now already are tapping into some of these folks to kind of support your efforts in your mentoring program through our no-cost consulting program that we offer. So if you're interested in that, please do reach out and we'll give you some more information. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to launch that poll so that we can decide what the topic for April is going to be. So hopefully y'all are seeing that right now. Options based on feedback we've gotten from you all in the surveys that y'all have submitted over time. Grant writing tips and tricks, burnout, what is it and what to do about it, or how to scale youth leadership opportunities in your program. April is Youth Voice Month, so that last topic is kind of speaking to the youth voice element that will be celebrated that month. So we'll give you all a few more seconds here to make your selection. We're about 68% have participated. Just a couple more seconds. I see 73% of you have participated. All right, we're at critical mass. So our winning option is the scaling youth leadership opportunities. So that is what we will be bringing to you in April. So thank you all for joining us for this February coffee hour. It's great to see all of you. Hope you all have a great rest of your month. Enjoy Black History Month, and we will see you back here in March. Thanks, Jacqueline. Thanks, Nick.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, Sarah, did you and Cindy have a quick second?
Yes.